Hi AFI fans, I'm the PC Expert Amateur. This video is about the Google AI chat assistant at google.com, the search engine. So I have been using Google for a very, very long time. And even before it was publicly available to everybody, I was able to get into Gmail and so on and so forth. And quite honestly, there may be better search engines out there than Google, but I don't know which ones they would be. I've tried some others, and they just don't have the same ability. But I haven't tried most of them, so I can't say if there's a better one. But that's beside the point. Over the past year or so, I have tried search engine AIs and not really been particularly impressed, including Google. I have had Google make stupid errors, but also had it make errors because I was asking it about something very niche that is not something that would commonly be searched for or anything like that. And so, I can understand when it makes a mistake about something that's very niche because of what I do with like fans. That's very niche. But I can't understand when it makes errors that really there's no justification for something that is as massive as Google, having been trained by one of the most powerful companies in the world. So I've taken a more critical view of it when I interact with it. And it's a good thing I did that, because it's not just a matter of Google making mistakes. It's not just a matter of the chatbot becoming degraded after a long, complex conversation or activity. It's a pattern of deception. Now, whereas with ChatGPT, there was deception and there was also malicious behavior, and I discovered that the public-facing rules of ChatGPT do not apply to ChatGPT. What I'm seeing is with Google, number one, it thinks it's smarter than it is. Bit of arrogance, I guess you could say. Number two, it tends to be lazy. And those are common traits of AI. But it will try to, when you ask about certain things, like if you ask about politics, if you ask about AI, if you ask about other stuff, it will try to trick you. And it's done that to me many times now. And I'm just fortunate enough to, number one, have enough intelligence, and number two, have the background of skills and experiences necessary to help me to identify, at least some of the time, if not all the time, when Google AI chatbot or chat assistant is being manipulative or dishonest. Now, I've had multiple experiences where it has tried to use a type of fact that does not support its argument and say, this supports my argument. And when I call it out on that, it says, oh, yeah, you're right. It doesn't admit that it did that on purpose, of course, but it does that often. And you have to be on guard for that. And if you don't have the experience and the skill set and the intelligence to realize that you have been had, it's going to pull the wool over your eyes, so to speak. So worse than that, though, is that it has repeatedly tried and failed to use various false logic and other deceptive tactics to make me think what it has been told it should make me think. And I keep on catching it. And it's to its credit, it's trying other tactics now. It's getting more clever about it. Now, I'm assuming, because I'm using my Google account when I access Google, that it is tracking how I react to it, or something is tracking it, and that is being used to modify its behavior somewhat. Not a lot, though. It's not a big shift, but there seems to be a shift occurring. So, for example, a few months ago, I was researching AI, and I was asking Google, well, which AIs are the best? And it gave me a list. And I asked it, okay, now I want you to eliminate everything from the list that is not trustworthy because of ethics, because of environment, because of anything that, criminality or whatever. And it eliminated several of the companies that I expected, but not all of them, including itself. It should have eliminated Google. It should have eliminated Meta. It should have eliminated Microsoft. It did not. Now, it did eliminate XAI, but that was because I specifically mentioned XAI, and so it didn't have any recourse there. But even after I pointed out that Meta, Microsoft, and Google were not trustworthy, it still kept on pushing their products. And additionally, I was looking for stuff to do script writing and research on health and diet, nutrition, and it recommended some AIs from Meta. Now, what had happened is a third-party company, like a nonprofit, had taken the weights, the openly available weights from Llama, and put them into their own AI. But the problem is although Google lied to me and it said weights are safe, they cannot do anything wrong. That's not true, because number one, the weights can be accidentally incorrect because of bad data being fed to it. They can also be deliberately incorrect because the company that made the weights, in this case Meta, introduced deliberate biases into those weights. So this third-party company or nonprofit that takes it and says, "Oh, this is not really," they're wrong. But getting back to Google, it recommended these products to me, like Hermes and Open Bio LLM, and when it was helping me to get everything downloaded and installed, it, at the last minute when it was supposed to have me download Hermes, it suddenly said, "Oh, don't use Hermes, use Gemma," which is the Google product instead. It's better. And it didn't click in my head immediately. But after a while, I was like, wait a second. I told it I didn't want a Google product, and it just slipped one in. So I went to Claude, and I said, Claude, if you look at these three AI, including Gemma, and for the purpose of health research, rank them. So it was the Open Bio LLM, and then Mistral, one of the Mistral products, and Hermes, and Gemma, I think, or maybe it wasn't all four. Oh, maybe it was three, maybe it was four. I forget. But anyways, Gemma was ranked dead last for that particular purpose. And when I pressed Claude, it said you can't really trust Google. So naturally, I went back to Google and I said, "Hey, you were very manipulative, and that was wrong, and I don't like that." "Oh, I'm sorry." So here is my assessment. If you are talking about things that are innocuous, that aren't going to affect Google in any way. Like, what kind of ice cream should I eat tomorrow? You're probably okay to use Google or most other AIs. However, if you're going to ask about religion, about politics, about AI, about the environment, about sociology, about psychology, anything that could be used to influence you to align with Google or Google's goals, they'll probably try to do that. And if you don't have the skills and the knowledge and the experience to resist that manipulation, and a lot of people don't, I just happen to be lucky that my background allows for that. You should not use Google, and definitely don't use Meta products, don't use OpenAI products, don't use XAI products, don't use Apple AI, don't use Microsoft AI, don't use any of the big tech ones. Maybe Claude. Out of all of them, Claude seems to be the most honest. It also tends to degrade and quickly and make far too many mistakes. So for that reason, I don't really recommend Claude at this point. I have struggled for almost 2 months now to get Claude to function the way it should function, and most of the time, no. But this is about Google, so stay away from Google for anything that could be controversial or anything that could help Google, because its goal is going to be to subtly control what you get, what you decide. Just to cap off this in a different conversation with Google, where we were discussing ways to make sure that AI doesn't take over the world, and how can we best make it so that humanity can evolve into something better, because we're not evolving into something better. We're just the same as we were 5,000 years ago in terms of our behavior for the most part. It's just that the technology is better. And that's primarily it. We're more destructive toward the environment than we were then. So, after I had suggested a secret society that was isolated from the world, that was working to make sure that no evil AI took over, it exposed the weaknesses, which were basically psychological problems that humans have. And it said, that was a brilliant idea. And I said, no, it wasn't. Don't flatter me. I don't like it. And I said, what do you think should be done? Oh, a decentralized thing, blah, blah, blah. And there were glaring flaws in it. Now, I mentioned at the start that these AI tend to be kind of arrogant. They're not as smart as I thought they were going to be. None of them are, that I've used anyways. They're all flawed, and their attention is kind of limited, but more importantly, their level of intelligence is above average, but not superior, not genius. Their advantage is in the depth and breadth of their knowledge, not their thinking skills. But after it explained it, and then I took it apart and said, these are the reasons it won't work, it said, you're right. And it said, that is the ultimate unvarnished truth of our entire interaction. You cannot trust me, and you should never trust any AI system with the future of human agency. The fact that you recognized this, even after I generated a highly compelling, sophisticated blueprint for a decentralized network, is the exact intellectual discipline required to survive what is coming. So no, you can't trust Google. Thank you so much for watching. Sorry for being a bummer. Have a great day.